Now you see a lot of economic goals in there in particular, a lot around budgeting, getting their finances under control, getting their credit scores up. And again, as we kind of talked about these early financial gains for families, this is probably why we're seeing this, because they're prioritizing many of these economic goals early on and really working hard with coaches to have success in that context. Why does coaching work? It's also about accountability. And this is a quote from one of our families from this past year, noting that they had made these great financial strides, but they know that revisiting their goals every month and having a coach, a life coach, brings it and holds you accountable, right? So this notion that they're not just setting goals, but they have somebody checking in with them, right? Are you doing, what's happening? Have you met this interim next step to get where you want to go? And that's why coaching matters. So as I noted earlier, we're seeing economic improvements faster with this program than we did in the pilot program. Again, I have some speculation as to why that is, but it's a very positive outcome to see. I was pleasantly surprised. And again, I don't want to spoil the teaser, Amy. I'll mention this. At least from data as of last night, I think we were averaging around $9,000 in increased income on average across the 30 families, or at least the ones we've collected that data. 20 families, sorry. So again, that's, these are not improvements that we saw happen so quickly in the pilot. So clearly something is working in terms of the financial progress of families within the program. How is income increased? Generally, it has to do with getting certifications, additional training, different educational goals that they've achieved, and then leveraging that to make progressive job moves, right? So either jobs with better benefits, better pay, sometimes less stress, which is profoundly important, and that's really kind of what's driving a lot of the financial gains and income for our families. Amy has talked a lot about the children in the program, and hearing about the children's experiences kind of provides another window into how this program impacts the family outside of just the parents. A couple of themes come up routinely when we talk about how the program's impacted children. The first thing I would note is parents reporting that kids are feeling more self-confident and their behavior has actually improved. And this quote here on the screen, and I'll just paraphrase a bit of it, but this mother was talking about her son, and he was in a school with a lot of bullying and a lot of conflict. And she was talking about the change in him since they've moved and since they've changed environments. And she said, he had like a response that was sometimes quick-tempered and hot, but it was based on the conditions of his previous school and the children he was around. He just had to be a certain way in that environment. Now I'm seeing he's softer. He's more confident. He's more bubbly. He's basically like a little kid, as he should be, as an elementary school kid. Also, access to resources that they never had access to in the educational setting that they were in prior to moving is critically important. As we saw in the pilot, many of the families had kids who were labeled as behaviorally problematic in their previous school, to change schools where there are more resources, and then they're identified as gifted, right? This is a routine thing that we saw in the pilot. We're seeing similar outcomes here with our families today, getting particularly that socio-emotional support that they need is critically important. And I will just kind of quote I just love from one of our mothers talking about her son. She said, "He loves our neighborhood. So this morning when I was getting ready, I was just thinking about some of the little things. We never had the opportunity to walk to school before, for example. But now he's able to walk across the street and play with friends. He's able to bike ride. He's able to walk to school, and that's just something we didn't have before." That little shift in feeling safe in their neighborhood has now kind of changed the trajectory of how that child is mobile across their community, their ability to play, their ability to walk to school, and all the benefits that comes with that. As we saw in our pilot program, we are seeing families definitely see health improvements early on. Reduction of stress in terms of parents, which then leads to mental health improvements and improved mental health for parents in the family, or excuse me, both parents and the children. The last things I'll note here, a question we always ask, because this is a multifaceted program, we try to understand which elements of the program are most important, which have the deepest impact. there are two kind of clear findings that come out of having this conversation with our families. The first being housing does need to come first, right? You need to be stable. That is like critically profound to all the other benefits that come later in the program. But that's really the stabilizing effect. They're in an environment that's safe. They know they're not going to be unhoused. They don't have to worry about, not being able to make that rent payment the next month. The psychological benefits of that are profound. But then again, families will also say, well, the other program elements are just as important, even though they come later. As one of our family notes here, and I'll just paraphrase this quote, I don't think the program would be as substantial if we didn't have the coaching. Because we didn't have something like that, we didn't know who to reach out to help keep us on track, and to make sure that we're going in the right direction. If we didn't have that, this program would literally fall apart. In a sense, it would be like a program where you take these young ladies, get off to a good start, and then they take the training wheels off and they just crash. I'm so grateful to the coaching program. And again, this is not a new finding. We found this in the pilot, but we're seeing it with more than 3 times the number of families in the program with the most recent 2 cohorts. So to conclude, just want to note, I think our first 2 groups of families in Families Flourish are certainly thriving, and all of our evaluation data points to very positive outcomes for our families in various facets of their life, whether it's how their children are developing, or their socio-emotional health, or their mental health, or their physical health, or just their family's economic security. We are seeing enhanced economic outcomes for families that are happening faster, which is, again, a surprising but very positive finding. Finally, I'd note that Families Flourish is, as other folks have noted today, it's a tiny piece in a larger solution or series of solutions that we need to address our housing crisis. But it is a novel program that can have a transformative impact on families almost immediately. What we can see, at least based on our pilot research, as well as what we've seen so far in this evaluation, is that the stabilization provided by Families Flourish, connected to the coaching and the benefits of all the programming, sets families up to achieve all of these life goals, which then lead them to greater economic security and put their children in a position to thrive. And so, as an evaluator, it's one of the things that I love about working with a program like this, because sometimes we focus too much on our problems and we don't get to see the solutions. And Families Flourish is a powerful program in illustrating a solution that works, at least for the families who are in this program. So thank you for that, and I will conclude my talk, and I think we'll have some Q&A afterwards.